Yeah, I mean, you understand this, and you're not like some of these so-and-sos. I mean, you're out for the highest and the best, and you want to do all you can with it to help others. You're not self-centered and selfish, and, well, I mean, some people are all right, bless their hearts, they can't help it, some of them, I suppose, but, oh, well, it takes all kinds. Hold on.
Always want to help other people.
Hello.
Good morning, friend. Good morning.
Mr. Woods, Mr. Green.
Yes?
Yes, that's right.
Yes?
Oh, well.
Nice to hear you, friend.
Thank you.
Come on.
Jolly.
Come on, friend. We can hear you quite well.
Well, so good. Edward.
Yes?
Edward.
Edward? Yes?
Hi.
Hello?
Hello.
Come along, friend.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello there.
Hello?
Well.
Very nice to hear you, friend.
I've heard about you.
You've heard that fast?
Don't be so stupid. Wait a minute.
You do have good fun with that speech, don't you?
I've been kicking over the other side.
I shouldn't eat your meals if you make them with a gas cooker, electric cooker, be very successful, switching on and off. If you fiddle with an electric cooker when you're cooking out, you fiddle with that when you're recording, my.
No.
Dear, I'm just putting the things going all right.
I make it laugh. Hold on. Is she a good cook, George?
Is she?
Is she a good cook?
Oh, wonderful cook. Wonderful. She makes beautiful cakes.
What, rock cakes?
Yes. What do you mean?
You don't stop us, don't you, Vicky?
No.
Well, I mean, you get people who make sort of sponge cakes or fairy cakes, and they're like rock cakes, aren't they?
I make fruit cakes, layer cakes.
Do you? Is that your speciality, cakes? What about puddings?
I want to make puddings too, yes.
And you roly-poly?
Yes.
Makes all sorts of things. I never know what.
She's feeding you up now, is she?
Yes.
A fatted calf.
Yes. Let me have what she thinks good for me, and
Oh, this
I
one
never
goes, hold
got-
on.
I'm very grateful.
So you should be. You're lucky to have someone like her look after you your time of life.
I appreciate it. Thank you very
I
much.
thought you're no chicken now, you know, George.
No, I don't. I'm not going to get old.
No, I don't say you are in a sense, but, you know, when you get round your age, women ain't got much time for you, have they? Unless they're unfortunate enough to be married to you, then of course they've got to put up with you.
Yes, I do.
You
get on
seem
very well.
quite a bit of a Casanova in your own quiet way, ain't you?
Yes.
Yeah, oh well.
We get on very well, Vicky. We never quarrel.
Haven't got much option now, have you? So you can learn to toe the line a bit now, you know.
Yes, I know I do.
It's all right when you're 40.
Yes.
When you're 50, you can still play around, but when you get to 60, you've got to go easy. And when you get to 70, God help you.
Yes.
Oh, I might as well be cheerful.
Yes, that's
Seems to be a
right.
bit of an itch here this morning. Hold on. It's a new house.
No, we've been doing a lot of work, Vicky. We've been with the church fellowship, we've been playing tapes to, they asked us to come play tapes for
It's
them.
like banging your head against a proverbial brick wall, isn't it?
I know it's awful difficult, but anyway, we never refuse anyone when we can
Oh
play.
no, you shouldn't refuse anyone, but
No.
they already made up their minds what they're going to believe and what they ain't.
That is so.
It's like, you know, sort of, well,
Yes, well, we hope we can sort of sow some sort of seed with us. That we
you
don't-
see, the trouble with them is if you want a picture, they must have the negative.
Yes, that's quite right. Yes.
Very good.
Providing it comes out exactly the way they want it, oh yes, marvellous.
Yes, I know, it's very, very difficult.
Now, as long as it supports everything they think, then everything in the garden's lovely.
This is perfectly true.
But if you happen to deviate one iota, one jot from what they have already preconceived and accepted, you've had it, mate.
That's perfectly true. That's quite right. We have experienced that
Yes. Many times.
many times, yes.
Trouble is, they have a fundamental truth and don't know how to express it or use it.
No, it is so.
Mickey,
Yes, Auntie?
may I put the switch on, please?
Put the switch on, cause you got it on then. Ain't I worth recording?
Yes.
Cool, Mingy. I wasn't being serious and I was teasing you about the switch.
I know you weren't that yet.
Okay, just switch on and switch off your heart's content. Oh,
Hey?
never mind, forget it. Don't talk about cooking my cabbages twice, hold on.
Experience.
You're doing very well. Very pleased to hear you.
I must ask you to bear with me,
Yes, certainly we
for
will.
I am not acquainted with this, as indeed I am sure you will soon realize, if you do not already, I am not acquainted with communication between our world and yours. Indeed, although I have made many journeys back to your world since my coming here a long time ago now, this is the first time that I've ever endeavored to speak in this fashion. So you must, I beg you, be patient.
Yes, friend, we will.
Sometimes I have returned to my old haunts, but I see so much change since my day in the world. Indeed, even in places where perhaps one would have expected this change, there is still great change. I never cease to amaze myself at certain things that have happened in my time and day. The countryside was everywhere. Indeed, the countryside was fraught with danger, and it was necessary to be armed when you visited a place at any distance. Much has changed in so many ways. I cannot say that many of the changes haven't been for the better, but obviously many of the changes have not benefited man also. I notice particularly many changes in design and architecture, and I must say, to my way of thinking, there has been such changes would not please me In my time, of course, we built the great houses, the great crescents, the great arcades, which still stand today as proudly as the day when they were first erected. When I was at Bath, when we were building and extending and planning, we did nothing haphazard, nothing as you do today. Of course, you may say that there was more land, more freedom to be able to express oneself, more opportunity, less difficulty. This is true, but it seems to me there is no excuse for much that I have seen erected since my time, particularly in these latter years, where ugliness seems to thrive, and line and artistry seems to be a secondary consideration. Everything that we did in our time was planned from the point of view not only for the comfort of the inhabitants, but of course from the aesthetic point of view. Of course, it's true that most of our buildings were planned for the middle and the upper classes. And of course, I suppose, from the sanitary point of view, many of our buildings, in comparison to yours, were sadly lacking. And yet, we didn't go around unwashed, unkempt, as some people seem to imagine. Indeed, I would suggest that among the classes to which I belonged, we possibly took more pride in our appearance and cleanliness than many a younger person today, even though they have more facilities. Bath in the 18th century, as I remember it, was a city of elegance, a city of good manners. Admittedly, there were many rogues and vagabonds, but good speech and good appearance and consideration for others were the prime factors of our life. We were interested in the arts and the crafts, and we were considered gentlemen. Not that then, even as today perhaps, to be a gentleman necessarily meant that you had to be an extremely wealthy person. Breeding and character and good manners constituted a gentleman. Of course, if you happen to have a title, it was admittedly a great help to you in society. But in my day and age, society, as it is termed, hobnobbed with the lesser peoples, the lesser folk. If they had something of quality to offer, if they had artistic ability, they were given every opportunity. Many great artists, musicians, and actors, composers, poets were taken up by the gentry and financially helped, assisted, and given good quarters. We were more concerned with living in the right sense. It's true, we had much to contend with in regard to other things. We lacked, perhaps, many things which today you take for granted. We didn't have the medical knowledge and the medical aid and care that you have. But nevertheless, though there was much to regret in my age, there was much to admire, and we lived life to the full. We hadn't any faults, or very few false values. We weren't afraid to call what you say a spade a spade. Of course, we bowed the head to the clerics, but it was only temporary. We didn't allow that to stand in the way of our happiness and our enjoyment, and yet we had, perhaps underneath, a greater understanding of true religion than people give us credit for. I have known in my time many great men, many men of fashion and of fortune, many men in high places, but the men that I most admired were the men of true ability, the men who created so much that has remained still in your world to be admired, not only in our way of life, in our houses and our buildings, but in our writings. I have known them all: Sheridan, Boswell, many men that you today still have regard and remembrance for they were men who were able to achieve in their lifetime something that was to withstand the passing years, when many men have forgotten, when all their battles are fought, won or lost, when their so-called material achievements have passed from remembrance. One still remembers so much that has been written, so much that has been composed, so much that has been erected and stands the test of time. Those who would build for posterity are the ones who themselves have seen the truth, in whatever fashion it may take, whether it is in architecture, whether it is in the theatre, in the play, whether it is in the writings or the music, where they're expressing something of the divine spirit. There is eternal life. There is something which will withstand the shocks and the pressures of material thought and time. I sometimes return me to Bath, and still I see standing proud and erect are those buildings which are still a credit to the men of my time. I was there for many years. My name, by the way, is Ralph Thomas.
Who?
Ralph Thomas.
Ralph Thomas.
I knew, of course, the great ones like Nash, Old Nash, Golden. The beautiful one was far from beautiful. He was as ugly as sin. But he was a fine man, nevertheless. And he was a man of foresight, and to some extent wisdom. He liked everything correct, and he changed, indeed I think one might say he changed the manners of the nobility and the quality, and indeed set a standard which present generations might well emulate. Indeed, much that is good that has come down to you has directly or indirectly come from the master of the ceremonies, the man that you call Nash. Of course, there are many others, one might mention, who contributed much. My century, I called it my century, but it was my last time on earth, was a period, I think, when much change for the better took place. It was the age, in a sense, of reason and understanding, an age of culture and education, an age of enlightenment. People sometimes, perhaps it is because they do not know sufficiently, do not understand enough about it. But you know, between the years 1725 and 1825, as far as one can say as to time, great advances were made in many different fields of activity. Values changed. People began to see and become, in consequence, differently. Of course, we had dire poverty, but even so, there was great advancement. The middle classes began to emerge, began to play their part in politics and in so many other ways. If a man had promise, quite often the opportunity would present itself, and he would be taken and given guidance and help, particularly in the arts and the sciences. We were beginning to come out of the darkness. It was the age of illumination. It was the beginning of a new era. It was the beginning of many changes. And I like sometimes to think back on those days and think how very fortunate we were. Bath, particularly, and indeed several other places that one might mention that you may have heard about, also began to emerge as places not just for pleasure and vice. These things, of course, were part of one's experience, part of life itself, and indeed much that is called by bad names was not as bad as often was made to seem. Often those things which are most natural are considered unnatural, and the things that are often unnatural are considered natural. People must have their standards and their ideas, but we were an emerging peoples, particularly we in England. In France, too, I myself had many opportunities to study the French. They too were emerging. As you know, the revolution in France changed the whole system. But nevertheless, under Louis, much change was already beginning to take place. He was not a bad man, a foolish man. The same as George was a foolish man. But it wasn't so much the kings that mattered, it was the people. And among the middle classes particularly, they were pushing their way gradually to the forefront in so many different fields of activity. The world was changing. Of course, as we all know, there were certain things that happened at a later date that set back progress, set back the advancements that we had cultivated and started. And in America too, and to the Americans, one could talk for hours about my time. It was a wonderful time in which to live.
Could you tell us what you're doing now on that side of life?
I am particularly interested on this side of life in architecture and design, in trying to create, and indeed I'm sure achieving in creation, some of the aspects of beauty that I sense and feel so strongly. And indeed I'm often approached to assist, to help in that way. And indeed my work consists partly of helping people here in the erection and in the design of the habitations in which they live. And also, I've always been interested, of course, in medicine. I've always been interested in the healing of the sick. And also, I do a certain amount of work to the best of my ability to help those in your world who are sick and ailing. And I visit hospitals, and I take a great interest in new ideas and new theories that are brought forward for cures of various diseases. And that, coupled with my interest in the arts, indeed, one might say my life is so full, for I'm interested in all that is good and beneficial to man. Sometime, perhaps, if I am unable to come again, I will tell you further of these things. But it is a great pleasure to me to come, if only for a short time, to say to you these things, so that others who may listen to the voice of the Spirit may know that time in itself is insignificant, that life is continuous truly, that those who once were dead still do live, and that no matter what time or age it may have been of their earthly journey, still they come from the realms of the Spirit, entering into the world of the flesh, endeavoring to encourage, to inspire, to guide, to help, wherever it is possible, particularly in those things that are of God, those things which are of the eternal spirit of man, those things that are indestructible, those things which indeed truly are the things of life, life eternal.
Could you tell us something about your life on that side is like, the world you're living?
Possibly, my friend, some future time,
Oh.
but it is not possible for me now to continue, other than to say unto you and all who listen to the voice of the Spirit, that we who come, varied as we may well be, from our differing vibration or condition of life, according to our perception of spiritual realization and truth, wherever we may come from, whatever the condition of life to which we belong, we come into the darkness of your world to bring illumination, to bring strength, to bring truly the understanding of the things that are of God. Be therefore of good faith, and know that we are ever near thee, endeavoring to guide, to uplift and inspire thee. May the peace of the Holy Spirit be upon you, each one now and always. Farewell.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Hello?
Vicky, sir? See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Yeah,
Vicky.
Vicky.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicky.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, love.
Bye-bye. Unusual contact.